My fiancé declared. This love is toxic. Pick me or your family. I answered. Decision made. I chose my family and sent her the invoice for her share of wedding expenses. She was desperately calling my family, claiming I misunderstood her ultimatum. 29M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. 3 days ago, my world turned upside down when my fiancé of 2 years delivered an ultimatum that changed everything. We were supposed to get married in 2 months. Everything was planned. Venue booked, invitations sent, honeymoon arranged. My parents had generously offered to cover about 60% of the wedding costs, with us handling the rest. They've always been supportive, maybe too supportive in my fiancé's eyes. The tension had been building for weeks. It started with small comments about how often I called my mom or visited my parents for Sunday dinners, a tradition I've maintained since childhood. Then came complaints about my sister texting me too frequently about wedding details. According to my fiancé, my family was smothering our relationship. Last Friday, after returning from dinner with my parents where they had surprised us with a generous check to help with our honeymoon, she exploded. I can't do this anymore, she said, pacing our living room. Your family is constantly inserting themselves into our lives. They have opinions about everything, the apartment, our careers, even how we should raise kids we don't even have yet. I tried explaining that they were just excited about the wedding and our future, but she wasn't having it. This love is becoming toxic because of them, she declared, her voice rising. You need to make a choice right now. It's either me or your family. You can't have both. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I stood there, stunned into silence, as she continued listing grievances against my family. How my mother had suggested a different wedding cake flavor, how my father had offered financial advice we didn't ask for, how my sister wanted to throw an extra bridal shower. After she finished, I simply said, decision made. She smiled, clearly thinking I had chosen her. I choose my family, I clarified. They've never made me choose between people I love. They've supported me through everything, including this relationship. The fact that you're asking me to cut them out shows me exactly what kind of future we would have. Her face went from triumphant to shocked to furious in seconds. She called me a mama's boy and said I'd regret this decision. Then she stormed out, saying she needed time to think. The next morning, I contacted our wedding vendors to cancel everything. Most had non-refundable deposits, but I managed to get partial refunds from a few. I calculated her share of the expenses, approximately $8,400, and emailed her an itemized invoice along with my reasoning. Since you've decided our relationship is toxic because of my family, and I've decided not to proceed with the wedding, here's your portion of the non-refundable expenses. My parents shouldn't have to lose money because of your ultimatum. She didn't respond to the email, but what happened next was unexpected. My phone started blowing up with messages from my parents and sister. Apparently, my fiancé was calling them repeatedly, claiming I had completely misunderstood her concerns and that she never meant for me to choose between them. According to my mother, she was sobbing on the phone, saying she was just stressed about the wedding and didn't mean what she said. My sister received similar calls, with additional claims that I was overreacting and being cruel by sending her an invoice. Yesterday, she showed up at my workplace with tears streaming down her face, creating a scene in front of my colleagues. She insisted we needed to talk, that I had misinterpreted everything, and that she loved my family. I calmly walked her outside and told her that ultimatums don't come with takebacks. I explained that I wasn't interested in being with someone who would use my love for my family as leverage in arguments. But the invoice? Really? That's just petty, she cried. No, I replied. Petty would be taking you to small claims court, which is my next step if you don't pay your share. We agreed to split these costs, and your decision to end our relationship doesn't negate that responsibility. She left in tears, and I returned to work, ignoring the curious stares from coworkers. Last night, she texted that she's reconsidering paying the invoice if we can work things out. I haven't responded yet. Part of me feels guilty for being so firm, but another part feels like I dodged a bullet. My family has been incredibly supportive, though they're shocked by how quickly everything fell apart. My mother even offered to cover my ex-fiancé's portion of the expenses, but I declined. This is between us. Am I being too harsh? Should I consider reconciliation? Or should I stand my ground on both the relationship and the invoice? Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and things have escalated in ways I never expected. After 3 days of ignoring her calls and texts, I finally agreed to meet my ex-fiancé at a coffee shop to discuss the situation. I figured a public place would prevent another emotional scene. She arrived looking composed but tired. Before I could say anything, she slid an envelope across the table. It's a check for half the amount, she said. It's all I can afford right now. I'll pay the rest in installments. I was surprised she was paying at all, given her previous resistance. But then she continued. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, she said, her voice steady. I still believe your family is too involved in our lives, but I shouldn't have presented it as an ultimatum. Can we please try again? I miss you. I thanked her for the partial payment, but explained that my decision wasn't just about the money. The ultimatum had revealed fundamental incompatibilities in how we viewed family relationships. But I've already told everyone we're working things out, she admitted, looking uncomfortable. My parents, our friends. I even posted about our rough patch on social media. I was stunned. You did what? She had crafted a narrative where we were just having pre-wedding jitters, completely erasing her ultimatum and my response. According to her story, we were taking a break to reassess our priorities. I firmly told her that wasn't the case and that she needed to correct these misrepresentations. She became defensive, claiming she was just saving face and that I was being unnecessarily rigid. As our conversation grew more heated, she finally revealed what I suspect was her true motivation. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? She hissed. Everyone knows you chose your mother over me. I look pathetic. That's not what happened, I replied. You forced a choice that never needed to be made. She left the coffee shop in tears again, but this time I felt completely resolved in my decision. The next day, I discovered she had indeed posted on social media, but not to correct anything. Instead, she shared a vague quote about forgiving those who hurt us with a broken heart emoji. Her friends and family flooded the comments with support, many directly mentioning me and my controlling family. Then came the text messages from mutual friends, asking why I was being so cruel and refusing to work on the relationship. One even suggested I was using the invoice as a way to punish her. I decided to clear the air. I posted a simple, factual statement on my own social media. To address recent rumors, my engagement ended when I was given an ultimatum to choose between my fiancé and my family. I chose not to cut off my family. The financial matters are private but fair. I wish everyone involved peace and healing. This apparently opened the floodgates. My ex called me, furious that I had exposed her. Her sister sent a lengthy message about how I had always prioritized my family and never truly committed to the relationship. Even her mother reached out, suggesting we all sit down with a counselor to work through these issues. Meanwhile, my own family was receiving messages too, some sympathetic, others accusatory. My sister was even approached at her workplace by one of my ex's friends, who tried to convince her to talk some sense into me. The invoice situation has stalled at half payment. My ex now claims she can't afford the rest because she's looking for a new apartment, as she can't bear to live in the one we shared. I'm standing firm on both fronts. The relationship is over and the debt remains. Some friends think I'm being too harsh about the money, but I see it as a matter of principle. We both committed to these expenses, and her decision to deliver an ultimatum doesn't absolve her financial responsibility. Update 2. It's been almost a month since everything fell apart, and I've had time to reflect on the situation with clearer eyes. After my last update, things got worse before they got better. My ex-fiancée's campaign to paint herself as the victim intensified. She began telling people that my family had always disliked her and had been trying to sabotage our relationship from the beginning. According to her new narrative, the ultimatum was actually just her standing up for herself after years of mistreatment. This couldn't be further from the truth. My parents had welcomed her into family gatherings, helped us find our apartment, and even offered to contribute to her student loan payments as a wedding gift. My sister had spent countless hours helping with wedding preparations. The breaking point came when my mother received a tearful phone call from my ex's mother, who claimed I had been financially abusive throughout our relationship and that the invoice was just another example of my controlling behavior. That was enough. I consulted with a lawyer friend who advised me to send a formal demand letter for the remaining balance. He also suggested I document all instances of defamation in case things escalated further. I sent the letter via certified mail, keeping the language professional and detached. A week later, I received a response, not from my ex, but from a lawyer she had retained. The letter suggested that since I had unilaterally ended the engagement, I should bear the financial burden of the cancellations. It also hinted at a possible countersuit for emotional distress and damage to reputation. My lawyer friend reviewed the letter and assured me it was mostly posturing. We responded with documentation of our original agreement to split costs, text messages where she had acknowledged her financial responsibility, and the partial payment she had already made, which essentially confirmed her obligation. 3 days later, I received a bank transfer for the remaining amount along with a terse email. I've paid what you asked. I hope it was worth destroying 4 years together over your mother's approval. Please don't contact me again. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The financial matter was resolved, But more importantly, her message confirmed I'd made the right decision. Even now, she couldn't see that asking someone to choose between their partner and their family is fundamentally wrong. Meanwhile, the social fallout continued. We had many mutual friends who felt forced to choose sides. Some understood my position, others believed her version of events. A few tried to remain neutral, but found it increasingly difficult as the narratives diverged so dramatically. I decided to take a step back from social media and focus on healing. I started seeing a therapist to process the abrupt end of what I thought would be my lifelong partnership. The therapist helped me recognize patterns I had missed, how my ex had been slowly trying to distance me from my family for years, making small comments that seemed insignificant at the time, but were part of a larger pattern. My family, despite being dragged into this mess, has been incredibly supportive. They've never said, "I told you so," even though there were apparently red flags they had noticed, but kept to themselves to support my happiness. 2 weeks ago, I ran into my ex's best friend at the grocery store. I expected coldness or hostility, but instead, she pulled me aside and apologized. She did the same thing in her last relationship, she admitted. "I should have warned you. She gets jealous of anyone her partners are close to, family, friends, even coworkers. After you left, she started saying similar things about my influence on her life when I questioned her version of events." This conversation was validating, but also sad. I realized my ex likely has deeper issues that our relationship had only temporarily masked. Part of me hopes she gets the help she needs, but I also recognize that's no longer my concern. Update 3. 6 months have passed since my engagement ended, and my life has taken unexpected turns, mostly for the better. The financial and legal matters with my ex are completely resolved, and we haven't had any contact for months. Through mutual friends, I've heard she's moved to another city for a fresh start. I sincerely hope she finds peace and works through whatever drove her to create that ultimatum. As for me, I've used this time to rebuild and reflect. The experience taught me to value people who support healthy relationships in all aspects of life. My family, who stood by me without ever saying, "We warned you," has become even more precious to me. I've also reconnected with friends I had unintentionally distanced during my relationship. Looking back, I can see how subtly my ex had been isolating me, not just from my family, but from anyone she perceived as competition for my attention. The wedding venue we had booked actually reached out to me 3 months ago. They had a cancellation for a charity event and offered to apply our non-refundable deposit toward hosting it. My family and I turned it into a fundraiser for a local domestic abuse organization, something that felt healing and constructive. Dating isn't on my radar yet. I'm focusing on myself, my career, and rebuilding the connections that matter. My therapist says this is healthy, and for the first time in years, I feel completely at peace with my decisions. The most unexpected outcome was a message I received last month from my ex's cousin, someone I had always gotten along with but wasn't particularly close to. She thanked me for standing my ground. "What you did was brave," she wrote. "Our family has a pattern of trying to separate partners from their support systems. I watched it happen with her parents, and now with her. Maybe seeing consequences will break the cycle." I didn't respond. It didn't seem appropriate. But her message gave me closure I didn't know I needed. If there's anything I've learned from this experience, it's that love should never require sacrificing other meaningful relationships. Real partnership means embracing each other's complete lives, not competing with them. To anyone facing a similar ultimatum, remember that someone who truly loves you would never ask you to cut off people who have supported you throughout your life. That's not love. It's control disguised as affection. I'm grateful I recognized it before signing legal documents that would have made separation much more complicated. Sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the greatest peace. And to my family, who are definitely not reading this anonymous post, but deserve recognition anyway. Thank you for being the kind of people I could never give up, even for love. Especially for love.